Good afternoon. Today's shiur is on Mesilat Yesharim, perek 10, 11, and 12. B'Shem Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach. So this shiur is dedicated to all the wounded and the hostages, refuah shelema, and all those who saw those horrible things that happened and went through and managed to, Baruch Hashem, be saved. It is also Le'ilu Nishmat for all those who were murdered and killed in this war, and for the safety of our soldiers and hostages and their safe return. So in this perakim, the Ramchal speaks about nikiyut, cleanliness. We're not talking about physical cleanliness, as we are going to see. As I was preparing the lesson, I was just in awe and amazed at the words of the Ramchal. Uh, this man must have been a malach because he must have worked on himself to achieve what he passed down to us. We may not be at, I know I'm not there yet, at the level of Nikiyut, but it's a good thing to always know what's the bar and raise the bar as we go along. As Chachamim tell us, Matai yagiu ma'asai le'maaseh avotai. When will my deeds, my actions, when will they reach the level of my forefathers? So the Racham writes, and we see his greatness. The Racham writes like this: the essence of nikiyut, of cleanliness, is the person completely naki, cleansed of any bad trait, character trait, or any avera, from any sinful action. And also when one finds or is persuaded and rationalizes that an action is possible, right? The Yitzhara is working, when in fact it is not possible, it's not permissible, sorry, and that means that the heart is still wants and desires physical gratification. So we see here the level of this great man, this great tzaddik, Zechuto yagen alenu, because the heart has not been entirely purified, and that pulls a person to do an action which is not permissible. In other words, that a person has not achieved the level where a person is in control of his desires. But a person who has been able to purify his heart and he's cleaned of any negative trace, his perception will be completely clear. His perception to know right from wrong will be pure and won't give in to improper action, to a sin. Because with his perception, he will recognize it as evil and will distance himself from it, distance this action from himself. Unfortunately, today we see how many governments and many students from colleges and universities go on the street and they agree with what went on the burning and all the the suffering and the killing and the butchering and everything else that they did on October 7th. Obviously, they don't know right from wrong. Obviously, they do not know right from wrong. And unfortunately, as we obviously they have been taught, so it means that they have teachers and professors in those universities who are just like the students. Not just like the student. They are models to the students because they themselves don't know right from wrong. And the hatred for the Jew is so strong that there's no more black and white. There are way too many gray areas where there should not be any at all. None. Zero. So we go on with the Ramchal. And tell you the truth, I had a hard time when I was preparing this lesson, um, since it's really on such a high level of spirituality. Should should I really give over the lesson or not? It is part of of the Ramchal. It's there. It's in inside the Sefer of the Ramchal. And as we are going to learn, we are going to come to more and more um, higher levels of spirituality. But at the same time, I said to myself, we need to know. We cannot be ignorant. We need to know how high our Chachamim and how much people were fighting, not just fighting the Yetzirah, really. That's what it is. Fighting the Yetzirah all their lives. And they lived by what they wrote. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara refers to such people who had such clarity, and they calls them Nikim Hadat, the the ones who are cleansed of mind, and of Yerushalayim, Nikim Hadat of Shel Yerushalayim. And here the Ramchal compares a Zahir, someone who is careful with his actions and his thoughts, not to sin, that he might not yet have a pure heart like a Naki, like someone who has cleansed himself of, of desires. The Ramchal says a Naki is on a higher level of spirituality. And he explains that the Zahir is careful, but still under the influence of his desires. And because of that, he will face endless challenges. Each challenge will require him to master the strength to make the right decision. And we all know we went through all this and we still go every day about making the right decision. Right? So the Zahir is the person who is going to stop himself and think whether it's really worth it for him to do what he's about to do. He might succeed most of the time, but by sheer volume of challenges, there'll be some failures, which is obviously it's expected. And sometimes he might not be able to overcome these challenges because his mind will rationalize. The Yetzirah is going to get in and make him rationalize that the action or the deed is okay, it's permissible, there's no problem, even when performing a mitzvah. Even when performing a mitzvah. So, and we know we live through it, we experience it daily, and sometimes more than once a day, right? Whether someone is just trying to Um, for example, um, someone was giving a donation for Pesach. Someone was saying, it's okay, you don't have to give such a big donation. That other people were giving, right? So this kind of things that we bump into. However, since the Zahir, the one who is careful, right, the way he performs the mitzvot, and with zerizut, his brisk, he's fast about doing it. He's not lazy, and he's full of enthusiasm. He can set his heart to really get close to Hashem. Because this is really all about, right? Getting close to Hashem. Like you see sometimes people that have such an energy, such excitement, like a fire to perform mitzvot. Once that is achieved, then a person will want to get more spirituality, and we stay away from physical desires until he will ultimately be able to reach the level of a naki, being cleanliness. Then his perception will be clear and pure. When one replaces his love of physical desires with the love of Hashem and spirituality, his subconscious motivations will change, and he will be ready to take on all that is good and stay away from all that is not. So I repeat again, when one replaces his love of physical desires, and it is possible that we know, with love of Hashem and spirituality, right? For example, uh, people who used to do certain things on Shabbat, but now they stopped, right? So that's what it is, physical desires, right? And he'll be ready to take on all that is good and stay away from all that is not. It means once you start fighting Yitzhara, you will get to where you want to get. You will get to be a Naki. Ve'ashrecha, alevai. Lucky you are, whoever has been able to reach this. And alevai for us, alevai, that we too one day we should reach this level. Ramchal advises us, and he says, anyone who wants to be a Naki, then after acquiring zehirut and zerizut, right, being careful about what you're about to do, and whatever mitzvah comes your way, you do it, and you're not lazy about it. He will continue to strengthen his love for Hashem and his passion. It means the basic of nikiyut is zehirut and zerizut. And so such a person will continue to strengthen his love for Hashem, for the mitzvot, until his desire for spirituality burns off the desires for pleasures. Ramchal acknowledges that it is a difficult task, not easy, but accomplishing it is a supreme achievement. The Ramchal divided Nikiyut into many categories. So first he speaks about theft, gneva. So some people, he says, think that when they're in business, business is business. That means that in business, one does not need to follow the same code of ethics that he follows in his personal life. However, the Torah has warned us, referring to theft. No, it cannot be. The Torah tells us. And here the Ramchal brings a few examples. Lo ta'ashok et re'echa, do not cheat your friend. Lo tigzol, do not steal. Lo tikahashu, do not deny. Lo teshakru ish ba'amito, do not lie one to another. Lo tonu ish et ahiv, do not cause grief. Do not say hurtful words to each other. Lo tasik gevul re'echa, not to move the boundary. And in other words, opening like someone has a printing store and someone else comes and opens up two doors away from him, right? And actually, there's a story of, I think it is Rabbi Eliashiv, that someone had a printing store, and um, and then two or three doors away from his store, someone else came and also opened up a printing store. So this man, the first man, let's call him Abraham, went to Rabbi Eliashiv, alav shalom, and he asked him, "What shall I do? This man now is my panasa. What am I going to do? He's going to take my clients. What shall I do?" So Rabbi Eliashiv told him like this: "You know what you have to do?" And it's just amazing, amazing. He says, "You know what you have to do? Go over to him, give him tips, help him, show him how to run the business, share with him the thing that make you business work, and you're going to see that Hashem is going to give you and to him, both of you will have panasa." Wow, that's really not easy, but that's what this man did, this Abraham. And true to the words of Rabbi Eliashiv, he was successful in his business, and the other one also. There was enough business for both of them. So this is about lotasik gevul re'echa, about not to move the boundary. We here Torah is telling us about the boundary. Let's say you have a field and you have a fence. You cannot put your fence, let's say, a meter or 10 yards into your neighbor's field. Or if you're building a fence around your property, you cannot build it on your neighbor's property, right? And so the Ramchal goes into many details about them all, and about many other isurim, things that we are not allowed to do, but that um, that are that really are theft. The Ramachal goes into forbidden relationship, and he says even if a woman is married and a man comes and he greets her and he just is giving her a kiss on each cheek as a form of greeting her, the Ramachal says no, that's not allowed. That's theft, he says. That's geneva. And then improper thoughts and forbidden foods, hurtful speech, giving advice that is not good because we have our own interests, so we don't want to give a proper advice. Rechilut, which is gossip mongering, which means like you heard something, you go and you tell someone else, and you get someone again, someone else, and someone else, and someone else. You're spreading things, whether it's rumors or truth, it doesn't matter. This feels rumors even worse, actually. And lashon hara, hatred and revenge, oath, taking an oath, sheker, lying, hilul Hashem, causing Hashem's name to be desecrated, Shabbat observance, and midot, character traits, such as anger, kin'ah, envy, ta'ava, desire. In short, nikiyut applies to all mitzvot lo ta'aseh, means mitzvot you are not supposed to do, negative mitzvot, and negative character traits. Midot Raut. It requires one to cleanse himself of any wrongdoing in all areas. Ramchal taught us about a few, like just give us some examples as models to apply nikiyut, cleanliness, to all lo mitzvot lo ta'aseh, and to midot, to mitzvot that we are not allowed to do, and to character traits. Once a person sincerely resolves to reach this level of nikiyut and practices it for a short while, it becomes much easier. So don't give up. These are the words of the Ramchal. And then he gives us a last advice. The way to acquire nikiyut is through constant study and reviews, both in Torah, Parasha, Navi, Halacha, Musa. Musa is ethics. So first, a person must acquire zehirut and zerizut, all right, being careful about his actions and his thoughts, and zerizut, not being lazy to do mitzvot as fast as quickly and as fast as possible, but not being careless. Then it is easier to acquire nikiyut. And I would like to explain just one last point here about the reviews. The Ramchal says if we review again and again, it means we have learned until now all these perakim. It means that we have got to go back from the beginning again and review each one, whatever we have learned. Listen again and listen again and again and again and again, because then it will help us. We might, in general, remember in general the general idea, but we might not remember all details, and we might forget details. And for that, Ramchal says this no good. And actually, Chachamim explain to us and teach us that chazara, which means to review, whatever we learn, whether it's parasha, whether navi or halacha or musa, whatever it is that we're learning, it's extremely, extremely important to review whatever it is that we are learning if we want to remember that learning with all its details. And the Gemara says, lo dome מאה פעמים למאה ואחת פעמים. Gemara says someone who reviews 100 times is not the same as someone who reviews 101 time whatever they had been learning. So the factors that are going to stop someone from achieving nikiyut, cleanliness, are the same ones as for zehirut and zerizut, which are being busy with panasa, so we don't have time to sit and learn, cynicism, to be cynical, right, which is negative pressure from friends, and being ignorant. Being ignorant is the worst of them all because it means that we are not studying. How can we move up without studying? I would like to explain, to tell you a short story about Chazara. First of all, Chachamim tell us someone who does not review his studies is like someone who planted a field with seeds for wheat, and the wheat is already, it's grown, it's ready, it's ripe, and it's good, there's plentiful of it, and it's time to harvest. He doesn't harvest. What happens to that yeast, to that wheat? The wheat then in that case is just going to dry up and die and rot. So all the hard work was for nothing. That's what Chachamim compare someone who studies and does not review. So the story that I'm about to tell you about someone, how much time or how many times actually someone was prepared to review his lesson. So the Gemara tells us a story about this Tana who had a student. That student had a hard time learning, but the Tana was always there to help him and to review with him the lesson. As time went on, the Tana realized that he actually, every time he had to sit down and review a lesson with him, he would review it 400 times. That's right, 400 times. 400 times for the student to know the lesson and to understand it. So now, one day, this rabbi had to go to a wedding. So he came and he said to his students, "We're going to learn, and at the end of the lesson, I'm going to go to a wedding. That's it. Okay, fine." So they sat down and they started to learn. They started to learn again and review 50 times, 75 times, 125 times, 150, 200, 275, 350, 400. Okay. And I said, "Okay, you know it?" Student said, "I don't know it." And I was shocked. "What do you mean you don't know it? What happened that you don't know it?" And then he said, "I don't know it because I was so nervous. You told me you're going to go to a wedding. And I was worrying, oh, you're not going to study with me as you usually do. You're not going to repeat it again and again and again." So every time he said, "Oh, that's it. You're going to stop now. You're going to stop now. You're going to stop now." I couldn't really focus on the lesson. Rabbi said, "Okay, no problem." And he took off his jacket. He hung it and he said, "I'm not going anywhere. Let's start all over again." And he started again for another 400 times. Wow. Kol hakavod to this rabbi who was able and who had the patience and the strength to go over and over and over every time, 400 times for his for the over his lesson. May Hashem protect our soldiers and hostages and all Am Yisrael and bless us all wherever we are, wherever Am Yisrael is. And may the words of the Ramchal penetrate our hearts so we too can reach higher levels of spirituality. Have a good day.